Hello guys, Siva Machon here. Today we'll be learning how to make a side drawstring dress. Very simple tutorial, very easy to make. You don't need a pattern paper. You can either use a stretchy material or a non-stretchy material and you're going to get the same results. You don't need a zipper for this. Very beautiful and I'm in love with my dress. If this is what you are interested in, let's get right into it. So here I folded my fashion fabric into two. It's a one-way stretchy fabric. It is super stretchy. It has the sun ray effect and it was difficult to write on it, as you can see. So I initially used chalk and then I turned to a marker. So I marked my starting line, marked my armhole. This one you don't need a dot for this particular style. You marked your armhole, you marked your waist measurement, then you mark your waist to hip measurement. Mine is 8.5. So I marked the 8.5 and then I proceed to mark the full length of the gown. I initially wanted a midi dress, so I made my gown very long, but later cut it. So I deepened the horizontal lines using a marker. So the second line is our armhole or chest line, the W for the waistline, and then the H for the hip line. Then the rest will be the full or the total length of the gown or dress. So on the starting line, you mark your shoulder divided by 2 if you want it sleeveless, but I wanted a drop shoulder effect. So I marked my shoulder to shoulder divided by 2 plus 1 inch. I marked the same on the chest line and connected it like so. On the chest line, I marked my bust measurement divided by 4, and then I did 3 inches for the width of the neckline. I came down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope. I proceeded to extend the line by 1.5 inches to form the drop shoulder effect that you saw in my video. I didn't want to show a lot of shoulder. I wanted it to drop on my shoulder instead. So on my waist, I marked my waist divided by 4, mine is 7. Then on my hip, I marked my hip divided by 4, mine is 10. I marked the same for the bottom of the dress. Then you are going to connect the hip to the bottom in a straight line. Connect the waist to the hip. And then the armhole or chest line point to that of the waist. Let me say this, if you're going to use a very super stretchy fabric, I would like you not to add any allowance to it. Just cut it out as I've done without any allowance if your fabric is super stretchy, or you want to venture into ready-made, just cut it as it is without allowances, or probably half inches allowances, and it's going to fit perfectly on the body of your client. Okay, but if it is not that stretchy, then you add 1 to 1.5 or 2 inches allowance, and that is also has an effect that is going to give, which is also super beautiful. But if you are looking for something like that of the thumbnail, like it has this drawstring and still tight on your body, then this is okay for you. Do not add any allowance, or you can add just half inches allowance. I hope you understand. Okay, so I added 2 inches allowance, which I later trimmed it off. That is why I have it tight. I trimmed 1 inch off and I used half inches for sewing allowance. So I was left with just half inch. I hope you understand. I do not want you to make that mistake. So I also added half inches to the shoulder for shoulder joining allowance. So don't forget to like, share, and then comment. I really appreciate you guys a lot. Thank you for helping my channel grow. I don't take it for granted. So we are going to go ahead and cut out our front panel. Remember, we are going to use our front panel to cut out our back panel. So we are going to put this aside, and now our front panel is ready. Don't forget to notch the waist point or the waistline. It is very important. Make sure you notch that point. So I've gone ahead to use the front pattern or panel to cut out the back panel. The same on the side, but only that the neckline is different. The neckline for the back is 1.5 and then the neckline for the front is 3 inches. So now front side facing each other, we are going to stitch with the allowances we left on the side and then on the shoulder as shown in the video. Make sure they align perfectly, especially the waist. Make sure the notches are aligning. So you join the shoulder and you're going to join the sides. So I've gone ahead to do that on the sewing machine and I'm trimming off the excesses. So you're going to fold your dress into 2 like this, with the back and then the front together. You're going to indicate your waist. If you notch it, this shouldn't be a problem. And then you're going to come in from the waist point by 2.5 inches. It is not standard actually, but 2.5 is okay, and then up 2.5 or 3 inches up and down. But I went down by 2.5 and then up by 2.5 and on the waist 2.5, and you curve it like so. Join the points in a half circle, just as you've seen, and you're going to cut it out. So this is what we have if you turn it to the front side. See the cutout? Okay. If you have an overlocker, I think you should use an overlocker for sewing this, especially if you are into ready-made or ready-to-wear designs. And then here I'm cutting the bias, which we are going to use to close off the cutout. So I fold my fabric in diagonal way and I cut 1.75 inches. So we are going to fold our bias into 2 like this, and then we are going to sew with 0.5 or 0.25 inches around. But before you do that, you rip off the seam that leads to the hip area. I hope you understand. It makes it easier to sew. Don't stretch it, please. Just sew along the cutout area. Remember, the bias, you are going to fold it and you are going to sew along the cutout area without stretching. So you cut off the excesses, and then after that you're going to flip over, you see, the bias like this, and you're going to sew. I first sew the bias on the front side, and then turn it inside on the wrong side. I hope you understand. So you top stitch on the wrong side. Take your time. My fabric was very difficult to sew because of the sun ray effect. If you're a beginner, I advise you don't use something like this. Use a very smooth fabric instead, so that you don't have the trouble. So I've gone ahead to do one side, and I'm going to do the same for the other side. So after joining, if you want to use an elastic, this is time for you to insert your elastic and then close it off like this. But I'm not going to use an elastic, so I'm going to close it off anyway. Close it off back into the hip line. Do the same for the other side. So now this is the front side. I've gone ahead to turn the armhole and then the neckline with the same method I used for the cutout. I've also gone ahead to cut out my straps, which we are going to insert. So what you're going to do is you're going to create a hole, a very small hole. You pick only the top layer and you notch it to create a small hole. Make sure the hole is smaller than the straps you're going to use. Then you are going to bring in a safety pin. So you do the same for the other side, sorry. Create a small hole. That is where we'll be passing our straps through. So you get your straps, you insert a safety pin, then insert just as I'm doing. Very easy and very simple. So you do the same for the other side. I've gone ahead to join or insert the straps into the hole or the channel. Then I'm cutting off the excess thread. Look at how beautiful our dress is. So I went ahead to cut it because it was too long. I later wanted a short gown. So I cut it, and this is the final look. I love the outcome. It's very simple, very beautiful, and I'm loving it. Hope you try it out.